Darn it. My owner doesn't understand a word I say. What should I do? If we have to go through that extreme cold again, how am I supposed to save her? Owner cat. Baby, are you talking to mommy? I looked down, bent over, and picked up the cat in front of me. Zaizai, are you worrying about mommy? However, a strong wave of dizziness suddenly hit my brain, followed closely by a cat's voice echoing in my ears. No, I, the great kitty, hate intimate contact. I feel like I can't breathe again. Whatever, I will indulge you just this once. My name is Xin Bu Huang. I'm a freelance city tour guide. Logically, I should be like my colleagues, flying around the world and making a lot of money. But on my very first day moving here, right next to the trash cans downstairs, I found a dying kitten. Maybe this is what people call fate. From that day on, I had a soft spot. Because of him, I rarely took long-distance trips. However, just as I was sitting by the window, staring blankly at the endless rain outside, I actually heard my cat's inner voice. Our eyes met. One cat, one human. Zaizai, mommy only has one question for you. What do you mean by save me? Am I going to die? His brown pupils suddenly dilated. And in that very moment, I finally realized this was already my 7th rebirth. And his 7th time loop too. It turned out this rain had been falling for a long time. The temperature went from above freezing, gradually dropping below zero. Power outages, traffic paralysis. The only thing that could generate heat was the human body itself. At first, people hadn't fully reacted, until the news suddenly broadcasted that the extreme deep freeze was fully hitting us. That was when panic truly set in. To fight for supplies, the streets turned into a chaotic mess. When the law could no longer instill fear, public order and morality became a complete joke. Staying put meant waiting for death. But to get out, one had to cross the entire city and climb over that mountain to find rescue. In my first few loops, my mental endurance was too weak. I didn't last long before I died. In the middle loops, I desperately tried to walk out, but still froze to death halfway. As for the last few loops, I remembered everything now. I fiercely lowered my head, my eyes burning with determination. Zaizai, this time, mommy will definitely protect you. We will definitely survive this. Zaizai jumped onto my shoulder, rubbing his head against me. I got up and walked back to the room. I dug out my mountaineering suit from the closet, along with my hiking backpack. Since it's going to be extreme cold, I need more heat-generating equipment and communication devices. Right now, every single second is precious. I cannot waste any time. After careful consideration, I bought everything I possibly could online. Looking at the delivery in 1 hour tag, I got up to continue packing the necessary items. Of course, Zaizai's food and clothes couldn't be forgotten either. I opened my phone again, went to the shopping app and searched for the top-ranked City Bites baked cat food. This was Zaizai's absolute favorite food. I ordered 10,000 bags without hesitation. Before, Zaizai used to shed hair everywhere. It only improved after switching to this brand. In just one bag of this cat food, it's equivalent to adding 2 large bottles of high-purity fish oil. And there's absolutely no fishy smell. My Zaizai eats it without even lifting his head. His coat became shiny and smooth. I didn't even need to buy separate fish oil anymore. With the money saved, I could go hoard other supplies. After packing everything, I put on my backpack and left the house. After 3 continuous days of heavy rain, only road rescue personnel were left on the streets. A massive number of cars were already submerged. If people wanted to move, they could only rely on boats. I threw my inflatable kayak down from the 2nd floor. Avoiding the rescue team's line of sight, I slowly paddled towards the city center. Back when I had no money for rent, I could only live in the farthest suburbs. Now look at me. I have to cross the entire city just to survive. I silently paddled the oars. When I got tired, I just drifted on the water. When hungry, I grabbed some food from my bag to regain energy. Zaizai was eating beside me too. City Bites baked cat food. I believe these 10,000 bags of cat food will definitely help us survive this natural disaster. By the faint light, I docked next to a large tree. Once I secured the boat, I replenished my fresh water and carefully recalled the conditions of the extreme cold. After 7 days of heavy rain, the temperature would plummet to minus 20 degrees. Then it would start snowing. The continuous heavy snow would only take 1 night to completely paralyze the entire city. 3 days later, the extreme freeze would fully hit, dropping the temperature to minus 50 degrees. I pulled out my phone and checked the date. It was already the 6th day. After tonight, it would be the 7th day, which meant I didn't have much time left. I looked up at the scattered lights in the city. The fog was too heavy. I couldn't see anything clearly. If I got lost in the city, wouldn't it waste even more time? Just as I was at a loss and pondering what to do, Zaizai dropped a piece of bacon from the tree and jumped down. I was startled, looked down at him, and let out a wicked smile. Zaizai, your night vision must be very good. Can you guide the way for mommy? He jumped onto the kayak, raised his arrogant little head, and walked right to the front. Next time, bring out the freeze-dried treats earlier. Then everything else is negotiable. I rubbed his head with a smile, sat behind him, and continued our journey. Lightning flashed and thunder rolled. The rain poured heavily. Raindrops smashed onto the kayak from the sky, splashing like fireworks. I was terrified this kayak wouldn't hold up and would be swept away by the flood. After advancing for a few more hours, the sky gradually began to lighten. A towering building suddenly appeared before us, dozens of meters high. Trembling, I put down the oars, held onto the edge of the kayak, and stood up. Looking around, the entire city was already submerged by the rain. And the place I came from had turned into an endless expanse of water. Hey, are you the rescue team? A man's voice floated down from mid-air. I looked up to find him. On the opposite side, about 3 stories above the water, a man was waving his arms frantically. I waved back at him, but he yelled, "Over there. Go a bit higher, you can come up using the stairs." After speaking, he disappeared from the window. I glanced at the open window. I decided to paddle over and climb in, because I knew the heavy snow was coming. The boat would soon be useless anyway. The man's hurried footsteps echoed from upstairs. Panting heavily, he stared at me. You're not the rescue team. Then how did you get here? Before I could answer, his eyes locked onto the backpack behind me. Do you have cold medicine or antibiotics? My child is running a fever. And my wife. Her stomach hurts. As someone who had been in this time loop, of course I knew I couldn't just casually hand over the medicines I carried. After all, at a time like this, who could guarantee the other party wouldn't kill me for my supplies? I pretended to look down and think. But my right hand slid behind my back, resting on the dagger I had prepared. But right at that moment, Zaizai stepped in front of me. Mommy, are you sure you want to do this? When you died the fourth time, it was because you tried to save an old man. Of course, I remembered. That old man had severe asthma. I went through hell to find medicine for them. But by the time I brought it back, it was too late. His family blamed me for his death. They pushed me into the water. In the end, due to sheer exhaustion, I died drowning in the cold water. Mommy, I still have 2 lives left. With me here, you don't need to be afraid. Besides, if we live and die together, I can brag about it to the other cats for a long time. However, just at that second, a dagger flashed from behind the man. Before I could even react, he had already grabbed Zaizai, holding the blade against my cat. Give me the supplies. Zaizai is my only family. My life was bought with his. I absolutely couldn't let anything happen to him. I'll give it to you, let him go. I placed my mountaineering bag at my feet. He glanced at it and said coldly, "Follow me." The man, carrying Zaizai, walked ahead to lead the way. I followed closely behind him. The moment the door opened, a foul stench rushed at us. Food wrappers were scattered everywhere, and a large pile of rotting food sat in the living room. The man jutted his chin towards the bedroom. I took out the first aid kit, and he immediately snatched it away. Zaizai jumped back onto my shoulder. I turned around and was about to rush out the door, when my eyes were drawn to a trophy. I stopped in my tracks. The man walked out of the room as well. A flushed little boy was lying in his arms, and a very weak woman was leaning heavily on his arm. Thank you. Are you a rescue worker? I shook my head, picked up the trophy and asked, You're a physics teacher? The man's eyes were red. He nodded, looking somewhat remorseful. After thinking for a moment, I told him roughly about the incoming weather conditions. I didn't care whether he believed me or not. After hearing this, the man turned and walked back into the bedroom. His silence left me completely baffled. Even if they aren't going to leave, he should at least say something. What's the deal now? After threatening me with a knife, is he going to pretend nothing happened? I turned and was just about to leave, when Zaizai suddenly jumped to the window. I looked in his direction, and my eyes widened. This snow came even earlier than expected. We couldn't afford to wait any longer. I gestured for Zaizai to come back. After he jumped into my arms, I glanced back at the closed bedroom door and started running downstairs. However, just 1 floor down, the floodwaters blocked my path completely. How are you going to leave? It's freezing outside, come back inside first. Let's pack our things and we'll leave together. The man's voice echoed from behind me. His smiling face was like a completely different person from before. Knowing I had no other way out, I returned to the apartment. The man handed me a cup of hot water. There's still electricity here? No, I figured out a way to generate it myself. The man scratched his head, introducing himself. Only then did I learn he was the famous university physics professor, Mao Bufan. The trophies at the door were all his. Mao Bufan brought out a hand-cranked generator from the room, along with some heating pouches, and placed them on the table. Based on what you just told me, these things should all come in handy. I have no other requests. I only hope that if you can get out, you can take my child with you. The kid is sick, and he wants you to carry the burden. So irresponsible, and beating around the bush like that. Zaizai grumbled in my arms. I gently patted his head, looked at Mao Bufan, and asked, "The child is still sick. And besides, I have zero experience taking care of kids." He waved his hands to explain. What I meant was, "We will come with you." Mao Bufan laid out his entire plan. He was a physics teacher. His wife was a nurse. And with my knowledge of where it was safe, our chances of surviving would be much higher. After understanding his intentions, I took the map out of my bag. The valley of this mountain is our final destination. And in this bag are all my supplies. We have at most 10 days. More likely, only 5 days. He shook his head. If it's truly as you described, the temperature will drop drastically. Thinking about it carefully, the timing of my deaths in previous loops was about the same. It seems this physics teacher is actually quite reliable. He laid out all the supplies in front of me. These heavy metal items, we'll pack them separately. In case we lose one, we'll have a backup. As for the other supplies, let's just take what we need. I nodded. After redistributing everything, the sky gradually darkened. Having barely slept last night, I was indeed feeling exhausted. I lay down on the bed. Zaizai curled up right by my head. The warmth made me forget the bitter cold, and I fell into a deep sleep. When I opened my eyes again, Mao Bufan was standing at the door, fully armed with gear. I put on my backpack and walked out. In just one night, the ice level had already reached the floor we were on. After climbing out the window, following the direction marked on the map, we marched all the way toward the mountain valley. If only we had a sled. Then Mommy wouldn't be so tired. I stared at him with a smirk. With your tiny little body, you think you can pull me? Well, isn't there a human over there who knows how to do everything? An idea sparked in my mind, and I walked up. Mr. Mao, do you know how to build a sled? I do, but we don't have materials. I looked at the exposed rooftops of the buildings, searched the map again, and pointed ahead. 20 kilometers ahead is a department store. At this temperature, the windows should be very brittle. He smiled faintly. As long as you can break open a window, no matter what you need, I can make it for you. We pushed through the blizzard for an entire afternoon, and finally reached the department store by nightfall. Once inside, Mao Bufan stood completely frozen in shock. I stepped forward to get a closer look. People in all sorts of postures had been frozen to death right here. It was obvious they were office workers. They didn't have time to evacuate before the disaster trapped them. I kept my eyes forward and walked deeper into the building, searching for usable items. After going through several rooms, Zaizai began pacing in front of an office door. I curiously asked him, "Zaizai, Did you find something? Mommy, there seems to be a heat source inside. I can feel it. I grabbed a fire axe from a nearby cabinet and swung it at the door. It only took a few hits to force the office door open. A wave of warm air hit my face. Suddenly, a young figure lunged out from the corner. Watch out, I grabbed Zaizai and tumbled to the side. Mao Bufan and the boy tangled together in a struggle. I threw the axe in my hand onto the floor. The boy instinctively squatted on the ground, begging for mercy. Don't kill me, please don't kill me. He shivered violently, trembling all over. He claimed he was the heir to this department store. He came to the mall to play on the weekend, but didn't expect to get trapped by the extreme weather. Luckily, there was a panic room hidden behind this office. After finding it, he gathered some supplies, built a makeshift stove, and barely managed to survive. Do you have any other materials? The snow is too thick. We can only get out if we build a sled. The boy shook his head. I sighed and prepared to leave. Mao Bufan blinked and asked me, "Are we just going to leave him?" I stood at the door, turned slightly, and replied coldly, "In this kind of weather, an extra person just means waiting to die. Under extreme conditions, everyone is equal. Making it out alive is all that matters." If Mao Bufan wasn't somewhat useful, he wouldn't be standing here either. If there are materials to build a sled, can you take me with you? I stopped in my tracks. There's a master toolbox in the panic room, the most complete one in the mall. My stove was built using those tools. There are also office desks. We can definitely build a sturdy sled. The boy's pledge of loyalty gave us a glimmer of hope. After barely surviving another night in the building, we carried the completed sled up to the roof. As soon as we opened the door, we realized there were hardly any buildings left visible above the snow. With snow this deep, how are we supposed to move? If you don't want to go, no one is forcing you, I said coldly, pulling out the map to confirm our direction once again. Looking into the distance, that solitary mountain peak far away should be our final destination. Zaizai quietly slipped into the warmth of my jacket. I positioned the wooden board at our starting point, gripped the wooden poles in both hands, and Mao Bufan and the others followed closely. I couldn't afford to care about them anymore. Although the blizzard had stopped, the temperature had hit minus 50-something degrees. If we didn't speed up, in 2 more nights, we would turn into ice sculptures too. Suddenly, a scream echoed from behind. I quickly stopped and looked back. The rich boy had fallen to the ground. Mao Bufan shouted at me, "Let's slow down a bit. He's not very good at skiing." I scoffed coldly. Then you guys can just walk slowly. If I didn't have the memories of my previous deaths, maybe I would have felt sympathy. But right now, I just wanted to live. I pushed forward at full speed until total exhaustion engulfed my entire body. And only then did I stop. I took off my backpack, reached inside, and immediately panicked. My supplies. Mommy, did you grab the wrong bag? I glared into the distance at those faint, barely visible figures. Fueled by a trace of anger, I started to laugh. Human nature is truly unpredictable. Thankfully, I had prepared for this. I bent down and picked up Zaizai. From inside his little cat jacket, I pulled out a few sausages and a small bun, still warm. Mommy, when did you stuff these into my clothes? I narrowed my eyes and took out the hidden energy bars. When we first left the apartment, I deliberately kept a backup plan, hiding some food inside the little clothes. I prepared for Zaizai. Even if my fate this time was still death, Zaizai would at least have a bite to eat and survive. After resting in place for half an hour, the distance between them and me had shrunk. Call me selfish. Call me heartless. But these people were no longer worth saving. I reorganized my things and continued moving. The foot of the mountain was getting closer and closer, but I had completely lost all concept of time. The endless expanse of white caused illusions to appear before my eyes. In a daze, I accidentally collapsed into a snowdrift. My head throbbed. The corners of my eyes felt wet. I could clearly hear my own panting breaths, but I could no longer feel my limbs. Zaizai circled around me, using his warm tongue to lick my cheek over and over. I wanted to pet him, but my eyes slowly closed. Am I dying again? If so, let me die completely this time. I just hope my kitty won't have to suffer through this agony again. Then, I completely lost consciousness. Captain, Captain! There is someone still alive here. When noisy voices finally reached my ears, I half opened my eyes. Several people lifted me onto a stretcher. A man had his arms wrapped around his chest, holding what must have been my Zaizai, right? When I completely woke up, a worker in rescue uniform was standing by my side. He said softly, "You're finally awake." I frantically scanned the room, tightly grabbing his hand. Where is my cat? Where is my Zaizai? He didn't speak. He just pointed toward my pillow. I turned my head. I saw Zaizai curled up in a ball, his four legs wrapped in thick bandages. His eyes were closed, his chest rising and falling slightly. There was still uncleaned mud on his face, but he was alive. Looking at my Zaizai, my tears wouldn't stop flowing. Zaizai had saved me again. Once again, I didn't keep my promise to protect him. He was the one who found us. That's how we found you. He is very brave. I carefully gathered Zaizai into my arms. He opened his eyes, gave me a lazy glance, and buried his head back into the crook of my arm. His meow was hoarse, sounding like he was scolding me, but also like he was saying, "Stupid human. You're finally awake." Miss, did you encounter any other survivors on your way? I gripped the blanket tightly and shook my head. The moment the door closed, I pressed Zaizai against my cheek, finally unable to hold it in, and cried out loud. Just then, over the rescue camp's broadcast, a man's voice rang out. The extreme freeze cannot be stopped, but we have already found a way to fight against it. As long as we are still alive, in the near future, we will definitely be able to rebuild our home. Zaizai bumped his head against my chin, letting out an incredibly soft purr. It was as if he was saying, "Stop crying, I'm not dead yet. I, the great kitty, will stay by your side forever." Feeling so incredibly lucky, I hugged him tight. Thank you for always being by my side. From now on, our lives will only get better.